First tonight, we turn to this evening's major news, the apology from An Taoiseach to the survivors of the Magdalene Laundries. It may have been a long time coming, but when it did come, it was complete, it was heartfelt and it was comprehensive. Expressing deep regret and apologising unreservedly on behalf of the state, the government and all Irish citizens, the Taoiseach hoped that this apology would make some contribution to the healing process. So will it? Can this provide some comfort to the women who suffered for so long and were ignored by this state for even longer? And what about the plans outlined by the Taoiseach for compensation? That's what we'll be discussing in a short while. First though, Primetime's Tanya Sillam, who has covered the Magdalene Laundry story for many years now, has this report.
For months, the Magdalene women have been telling their stories to the media, to Senator McAleese and finally to the Taoiseach. And today, after a lifetime of stigma, he said sorry.
The Magdalene Laundries have cast a long shadow over Irish life, over our sense of who we are. It's just 2 weeks since we received this report, the first ever detailed report into the state's involvement in the Magdalene Laundries. It shines a bright and a necessary light on a dark chapter of Ireland's history. The reality is that for 90 years, Ireland subjected these women and their experience to a profound and studied indifference.
It was a momentous day for two women with very different stories, who between them worked in Magdalene Laundries for over 3 decades for no pay. Elizabeth Coppin spent 4 years between 1964 and 1969 in 3 Magdalene Laundries in Cork and Waterford, run by 2 religious orders, the Sisters of the Good Shepherd and the Sisters of Charity.
First place, barbaric, awful. Being locked in from the outside every night. You were in a cell and the windows had bars of strong mesh on them. You were like in prison.
Elizabeth Reardon, as she was then, was committed to an industrial school aged 2. She was known as Betty. For the abuse she suffered there, she was compensated under the redress scheme. But until today, there's never been official recognition of her incarceration in the Magdalene Laundries. Until recently, the state claimed she'd been there voluntarily. But today, for the first time, the Taoiseach acknowledged it was the state that put her there.
I was sent there. And the proof is I ran away. I was brought back, so I couldn't leave when I wanted to. I believe I was held against my will. I didn't have any basic human rights. I mean, my name was changed, my hair was cut. I mean, you were dehumanized, defeminized, call it what you like. You were just a non-entity. They just treated you like nothing.
The mothers of infants like these, born in mother and baby homes, also ended up in Magdalene Laundries. Today, the state recognised its role in these transfers, but its apology will come too late for the countless private tragedies of such a regime.
The other thing that has stayed with me was about 2 cells away from me, there was this very elderly lady, very elderly with grey hair, and she used to cry out at night, "Where's my baby? Where's my baby? They took my baby from me." Can you imagine hearing that when you're 14, nearly 15?
Today there was no mention of compensation, though the government has announced that there will be help for survivors. And that's a way of recognising that the majority who gave evidence to Senator McAleese, 58, never left the institutions after the laundries closed in the 1990s because they were unwilling or unable to live independently. Mary McLaughlin spent 29 years between 1967 and 1996, working in 2 Magdalene Laundries run by the Sisters of Our Lady of Charity in Dublin. She is still in their care today.
They told me I was going to a lovely job in Dublin. Well, I wanted to go home, but sure, there's nothing I could do about it, you know. So I had to stay where I was, you know.
In the 1960s, Mary found herself in trouble with her father and aunt. Tell me a little bit about your family.
They were okay, you know. Sometimes they used to get cross, you know.
Why did they get cross?
Because I used to be doing things that I shouldn't be doing, you know.
What kind of things, Mary?
Oh, and running out and not telling them where I was going and that, you know. They were worried about me, you know.
Mary was meeting a boyfriend.
Dances at night. He'd be there in Fentown Hall there. There was a big dancing hall there.
So were you going out with him?
Yeah. On the slides, as you.
And did you get into trouble eventually, Mary?
I did, yeah. I did.
Tell me what happened. Tell me a bit about that.
I had a baby then, and I had to go into Castle Pollard.
Castle Pollard was then a state-funded mother and baby home for single women, and it was from these institutions that many Magdalen women came, according to the McAleese report. Once her baby, Patrick, was adopted, Mary was sent to the Sean McDermott Street Laundry. And what happened to Patrick then?
He was sent to another adopted parent, you know. Yeah. And Derry.
And did you want that to happen?
No, I didn't actually want that, but you see, I was kind of shame, you know, going back up the country, you know, and, you know, with him bringing it up because I wouldn't know what way my father and my aunt to take me, you know. Yeah, what way they'd take it, you know. Well, I'll have to be at home, to be honest with you.
Were you able to look after yourself?
Well, I'd be able to look after myself, lying there cleaning and keeping the place tidy, but the cooking, you know, I wouldn't be able for cooking. Yeah.
So in a way you were looked after?
Yes, I was, yeah. It was kept clean and looked after, you know.
Was it hard work, Mary?
I found it hard in the summer. I'd be all right in the winter now. And the hot weather was kind of hard, you know. You see, it'd be very hot in the laundry, you know.
For over 90 years, the Magdalen women have been subjected to profound indifference, according to the Taoiseach. And it's to them he delivered the nation's unreserved apology and a promise that every survivor would be supported in their remaining years.
That report from Tanya Sillam. First up tonight, I'm going to talk to Elizabeth Coppin, who we saw there in Tanya's film. Elizabeth, you yourself, obviously in a Magdalen, you were in the Dáil tonight. What's your reaction to the Taoiseach's apology?
I thought it was very sincere, very compassionate and very heartfelt. And I felt very privileged to be an Irish citizen tonight for the first time in a long time.
That's so good to hear. And what does it mean for you? I know he hoped the apology would go some way to easing your sadness and all you've suffered. Will it, Elizabeth?
Well, I'll always carry it. I'll carry this abuse with me to the grave because it was part of my life. But it has, tonight his apology has made such a huge, it's taken a load off my shoulders, so to speak. It's just I'm just speechless. I just can't describe it.
Why? Spell that out, Elizabeth. Is it because for years there was stigma, there was secrecy?
I remember very vividly the stigma attached to it. I remember that the word bastard was terrible in Ireland when I was a kid. I remember you couldn't say it. I don't know if you can still say it, but I've said it. And it was just the religion as well. It was so narrow-minded, and the nuns were so vindictive, and the pettiness, and the government, not this government, but governments, all of them, in the past, in particular the education department, they were so negligent, and the way they treated the most vulnerable in their society. I mean, did they have any conscience? Did they care? Or, again, was it just a macho parliament that had no feelings or respect for women, and they themselves had wives and mothers and sisters? How would they have liked to have their female family treated?
And Elizabeth, when you wake up tomorrow morning, is it like for you it's going to be the beginning of a new era in your life, that it means so much to you that this apology has been given so publicly?
Oh, it'll make a big difference to me. When I won't be waking up so many mornings feeling so depressed, with feeling so, God, I've got to get up today. You know, nobody's believing us. What's the point? Because, I mean, people have tried. The lady on the panel there, Mary, I know she's been trying for years, writing to various Prime Ministers or Taoiseachs here. Yeah. It's just a relief.
Let me bring in Mary. Yeah, the great woman here, Mary. You... You were here 2 weeks ago with me and you were devastated you didn't get the apology then. What did it mean for you? You were in the Dáil this evening.
It means an awful lot to me now because he's apologised properly and he was very, very sincere. So was Alan. Very, very sincere. And I met him in the embassy last Saturday and I didn't think then that he was going to give the apology. But when he gave it tonight, I thought that man was brilliant. And he gave me hope, and I hope now that he acts on it for the women that's left. And I feel very, very sorry for the women that's not here tonight, that can't be here and see this happening. I laid out 3 of them when I was in Hyde Park. They died and I laid them out, and I really feel sorry that they're not here tonight to hear this apology, how sincere it was. Now I won't cry at night, like I have been for the last 45 years.
God, that's so...
I've been crying every night. My husband will prove that. So now I feel that I won't be crying anymore. But he has to act on this now. They really have to act on it, not drag it out and give it to the women. And they should do something for the poor women that are still in homes and nothing is done for them.
I mean, it's wonderful to hear that, actually, Minister, that tonight's apology from the Taoiseach meant so much. And it's not to take away from it now, but 2 weeks ago, wasn't it a huge mistake that it wasn't given 2 weeks ago? And do you think it was maybe meeting like Mary in London on Saturday that did so impact on the Taoiseach?
No, is the answer. It was always intended that we would publish the McAleese report at the very first moment possible. That report was literally published the day my Cabinet colleagues received it. I received the final chapter from Martin McAleese on a Monday. We held the Cabinet meeting on the Tuesday. It was a 1,100-page report. And I had said many, many months earlier that we would publish it as soon as we can, we would reflect on it, and then we would come forward with a very detailed response to it.
But maybe it's tone, actually, Minister, isn't it? Like, I think tonight, all the women I've spoken to more, and even Mary McLaughlin there talking to Tanya was saying to her, it just meant so much to them, I suppose, for the Taoiseach to take time out to say sorry on behalf of the state.
We felt it was hugely important that after the report was published, that the Taoiseach and myself and the Taoiseach, Kathleen Lynch, had time to talk to many of the women who've been looking for vindication, for people to say, we believe your story, for so long. I was absolutely determined, for example, when I was appointed Minister for Justice, that we would produce a report and get to the point of ensuring that all information available in the state agencies, within the religious congregations became available.
I think what people want to know.
And we've did that, and this is the first step along the road. And of course tonight was terribly important because it was important, firstly, that the apology that the Taoiseach delivered was delivered. It was a very sincere apology, which everyone on all sides of the House ought to support it.
To move it on a bit to the redress or compensation, Claire, as someone who's representing the Magdalens, what's your own view on what's proposed in relation to maybe redress measures?
Can I just firstly say that for the women, today is about them. Okay, and I don't want to take away from that because it was an honour tonight to sit in the gallery with these women and listen to that apology and listen to the effect that it had on them and the standing ovation in the chamber. It was just incredible to be part of that moment in history. So that first and foremost, they come first, okay? What we do need to bear in mind, though, is that this process must be open. It must be transparent. Because the McAleese report is only one chapter in this. It established state involvement, which we knew already, which you yourself, Minister, knew on the 17th of December 2009. So there wasn't actually any need to go further in terms of state involvement. Research had already been done. What the McAleese report hasn't actually done is fully acknowledge the physical abuse, and that's where the compensation comes in. And we welcome the Taoiseach's comments tonight in terms of the human rights element of that, because What needs to happen is compensation, and compensation fast. These women, they're not former residents, they're survivors, they're heroines. They worked for no pay. They deserve their justice, they deserve their wages back, they deserve compensation for what has been done to them, and fast.
Will it be swift? I know that Justice Quirk is going to take, I think, 3 months, isn't it, initially? I mean, in a paragraph, spell out how it's going to work and how quick it's going to be, Minister.
All right. Well, firstly, this was a very important day, and the reason for the 2-week delay was so that Cabinet could reflect on how we best move forward. What we didn't want to do is repeat the structure that was in place under the Redress Board, which caused so much stress for so many people. And the essential intention is that there's a simple structure devised, which Mr. Justice Quirk, who's the President of the Law Reform Commission, has agreed to put together. He's been given a 3-month period in which to do it, to detail the circumstances and the eligibility criteria and how to approach the making of appropriate payments to the women who are residents in the laundries. I'm absolutely convinced he will be able to do that. It's to avoid also creating a situation where they need to go into enormous detail about their personal circumstances.
Beside me here is Mary, right?
Yes.
It was never about money for you, I know that, Mary. But if Mary wants to make a claim, what does she do?
Well,
can she write to you?
Well, firstly...
I want my pension for 14 years that you took off me, that you made me slave for nothing, because I would work for 14 years. Hang on.
As Mary knows,
I worked for 14 years in a laundry. I was put in there from an orphanage from when I went to 4 years of age, and I worked for 14 years, and I never got one single penny. I went to England, and because I came out of the laundry when I was 31, I went to England, and I couldn't get my full stamps because I wouldn't have had the years to work for them. I was writing to you, don't forget, in 1995, I was writing to you, and 4 of your Taoiseachs I wrote to. Burton, Cowan, Ahern, and the one that's in now. Okay. And I've been writing to you since 1995, telling you what happened in them laundries.
Okay, but to stay positive tonight, Mary, I assume she can apply for her pension.
As Mary knows, when I was in opposition, I was one of the deputies who was raising the issue of the Magdalene Laundries, trying to force my predecessors in government to do something about it.
But can she apply for a pension now?
Well, she'll be able to apply for a payment under the scheme that's going to be devised.
Tomorrow, can she apply?
We've already...
Can I write to you first and you send me a cheque?
We're putting up on the Justice website...
No, answer me that. If I write to you, will you send me the cheque?
Mary, we're putting up...
Well, the applications, I think, are going to the Department of Justice.
We're putting up on the Justice website
fine, I'm going to give those details.
An application address. We're asking people to register with us. And so we know in advance of receiving the proposals from Judge Quirk, some of the people who are seeking payments. We also want to put in place other supports that may be necessary for people, be it health or psychological counselling supports. We're also putting in place, in the context of the group that's run in London by Sally Mulready and the centre that she wants to provide, and which is already doing work.
We're going to put up details on our website. Claire, Mary just wants to make a point.
I want to thank everybody, which I didn't do before. I want to thank everybody on RTÉ for them carrying this out and taking it up and working on it for us. And you did an excellent job, everybody. I mean, cameramen from down to you, everybody. And for the public that was in the gallery.
Okay, well look, Mary, thank you very much. Claire, Minister. And look, those details, as the Minister said, the Department of Justice has set up contact details. They're up on screen now for anyone who wants to seek benefits from the fund. And those details are on screen, and we'll also put them up on our website later on. If you're a helpline person and you want to get any help for any issues raised tonight in our discussion, we'll look at and try any of these helplines. They're all staffed tonight, and you'll find all of those again on our website. That's www.rte.ie/primetime. Thank you all very much, Claire.